have a group of college wrestlers from Wyoming that they were going hiking. Is Kendell, Cummings, and Brady Lowry, who got apparently separated from their group. And while making their way back to a car, Lowry says he noticed bear marks on the ground. And he didn't have much time to actually act on that information because almost instantaneously they heard crashing through the trees and they were beset by the bear. Here's a shot of the two, by the way, Kendell and Brady. Both of them were mauled by the bear, but are recovering. The story's actually crazy. Lowry says he only had time to yell, "Bear, bear," before the grizzly bear tackled him, knocking him off of a small ledge. It started chomping on me pretty good, he says. It got a hold of my left arm, was shaking me around, broke my arm. Cummings tried to get the bear's attention, which is already a heroic act. I would have been running as fast as I can. He was yelling and throwing things at it. Then he jumped down and grabbed the grizzly bear and yanked it off his friend. The bear then tackled him, and as he says, chewed me up a bit. The bear wandered off. Cummings yelled for Lowry, but then the bear came back, biting Cummings on the head and cheek. Anyway, they were able to finally get away. And then they say of the experience, we become best friends going to hell and back with each other. Seeing someone sweat and bleed, coach teaches us that you aren't going to leave a brother behind. Wow. Look, I don't want to ever even see a bear, let alone interact with one, but that is true heroism, A.B. What do you think?
No, absolutely. So the first thing you don't do when you see a bear is run. You got to get as big as possible and make the bear think you're just as bad as they are. And these two boys, I got to give it to you. Like, that's a good friend, because I can't say I would have stuck around and wrestled a bear. But glad to see that they made it through, because a bear, it's no joke. I couldn't imagine. I would have been terrified. And how y'all get separated from the crew? What was y'all doing?
That's a good point. We don't know. We don't have any word on that, but apparently in that area there are a lot of bears. It's crazy that there are just bears out there. I don't think that we stop and think about that. Bears are basically sharks on land, and they're just roaming around waiting to maul us. I know that they don't typically attack or whatever, but that's pretty horrifying. Can you imagine? Like, you throw something at a bear and that doesn't work. So you go up and like grab a bear. Who grabs a bear? That is crazy. Anyway, yeah, very glad that they're both recovering. They're gonna have some amazing scars and a truly amazing story for the rest of their life. Absolutely. But with that, let's get it. We've been in the air, we've been on the land. It's time to dive into the sea and talk about a sunfish. So to set up this story, you need to know that back last December, scientists in Portugal got word from fishermen that somewhere in the mid-Atlantic, there was a massive dead sunfish, a truly massive creature. They eventually were able to find it just recently. So yes, it had been sort of rotting for months and months. They weighed it and measured it, and they believe it's the heaviest bony fish that has ever been recovered. It weighs in at over 6,000 pounds. That's like an Escalade, except made of fish. 882 pounds heavier than the reigning bony fish world record holder that was found off the coast of Japan back in 1996. So what does this beast look like? Take a look at this sunfish, which looks to me less like a fish and more like something coming out of the next Alien movie. They're real. They have huge hulking round bodies, dorsal and anal fins, a unique rounded rudder called a clavus formed when their back fin naturally folds into itself. They lead, admittedly, difficult lives. They have droves of parasites on their skin. They're awkward swimmers. They can't even fully close their mouths, and they mostly eat jellyfish, sometimes algae or other small fish. And that's pretty much their life. They're curious and generally non-violent creatures, but this one didn't make it. It looks like it was, they believe it was at least 20 years old when it died. A.B., what do you think?
Well, that's a long time to survive in the ocean these days, right? when we look at what's going on in the ocean, but that is a huge creature. Like, nobody's seen that floating around for the last 20 years. It's just been living its best life. And now hopefully it's no humans in there.
Yeah, oh my God, they should definitely x-ray it. Yeah, just imagine this thing just floating around for 20 years eating jellyfish and stuff. There's some animals that I'd be willing to swap lives with. Yeah, I would not want to be a sunfish necessarily. Anyway, it had a wound that had some red paint in it that they believe might have come from a ship. So they don't know if a ship collided with it and killed it or maybe hit it after it died. But anyway, it is rough out there being a fish, not only because of ships, but also climate change and overfishing are wreaking havoc on a lot of different species. So let's enjoy these majestic creatures while we can, because they're not gonna last much longer necessarily.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.